It's a new year. It's a chance to do something new, to be something new, to invest in yourself, in who you are and who you are becoming. What will you do differently this year? How will you grow? How will you discover more about yourself, more about God? Is this the year where you don't just know about God, but you actually know God? Is this the year where you start to become who He's designed you to be? Investing in yourself is the best thing you can do. And know this, you are worth the investment. Your story has just begun. What two topics can you not talk about when you are having Thanksgiving dinner with extended family? Religion and politics. Well, we're here at church so that we can kind of talk about religion pretty safely here. But I don't know too many places where you can safely talk about politics today, really. And it's not so much that we're going to talk about politics tonight, but we're going to talk about how we talk about politics tonight. And this got elevated for me on January 10th. January 10th, I had a finger-pointing, foot-stomping, knock-down, drag-out, pissed-off, mother-effing conversation here at church with the pastor's wife. Yeah, I don't know. You know the pastor's wife, Julie, associate pastor. So I want to invite Julie up here. And so Julie and I, we showed up on January 10th, 10th on a Sunday evening to record our vision moments for January. And then after that was done, we started to have a conversation this January 10th, but we started to have a conversation about January 6th. You know what happened on January 6th, right? So, Julie, tell how we went from an interesting conversation to F-bombs.
I just want to say, you were the only one dropping the F-bombs. So we come together.
This may not go the way I was thinking.
We come together and we just recorded our vision moments, and they're always about loving God, loving people. And it's so ironic because 20 minutes later, we couldn't love each other to save our lives.
No.
And so what started out as a healthy, very safe conversation, because we're friends, we can talk about politics. And we don't have a lot of people that we can talk about that with.
Right.
And so we start talking about it. It's safe, it's healthy, we're fine. And, it starts getting a little sarcastic and a little biting and cutting, which is good. I mean, we can do that. We do that often. And then it got really personal. So
in that conversation, how did you feel, and how was I perceived in that conversation?
Well, we started talking. And
it's kind of scary, right? I mean, I picture myself as a big teddy bear.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what you picture.
Well, we started talking about what happened, and it started getting really personal, and we started getting a little heated, and we were, talking about the thing that happened and whatever. And all of a sudden, he said, I said something, and all of a sudden he said, "You believe that?" And I was like, oh. All of a sudden, it went from being safe and healthy, and I felt unsafe and unhealthy, and it started getting toxic.
Yeah, and we essentially didn't even really care whether this relationship was going to continue. And if you'd have been there, you'd have wondered if our employment was going to continue either. And it was a real struggle to figure out what was going on there for me, and how a weird sort of empowerment came over me where, you know what, I am going to win this thing And I don't really, I'm going to win, and I care about that more than I care about you, actually. And matter of fact, I felt like I'm tired of listening to the absurd talking points
Right.
of the other side.
And he started using language like absurd, and obviously he's saying you're absurd and your thoughts are completely stupid. And he totally thought, I am way over here.
I just said absurd. I didn't say all that other stuff.
Oh, you said all the other stuff. And he was, in this kind of place where he's like, I'm right. I'm not only right, I'm 100% right. There's no margin for error in my thinking or how I feel and what I think about you. And all of a sudden, I was one of those crazy crazies. I was lumped into all those other people. And here I am. And he's like, you're one of them. And all of a sudden, there was this huge divide in our relationship and in our working relationship, in our friendship, and the whole thing. And my mind quickly was like, oh, I'm going to put you in a box, just like I put all those other people in a box who put me in a box. And so it's over. We're done. That's it. And I shut down.
And I might have won the argument, but I'm losing the friendship.
I think you lost both that day.
Well, and I might have won the argument, but I was losing my influence over one of the most key leaders on our team. And that was becoming very costly. It's interesting how sometimes you can be so right and so wrong all at the same time. Have you ever noticed, especially when you start talking about politics? That seems to ignite it. And you know what? I was so right, I didn't care how wrong I was. You ever been like that? And so I was trying to unpack in the aftermath of that carnage. First of all, do you have anything else to add?
No.
Because I'm actually kind of uncomfortable with how much you did add. Yeah, give her a hand. Appreciate her being vulnerable on this. But I had to look at the carnage and ask myself, how did I get into a zero-sum game where winner takes all and there's no taking prisoners? What was going on inside for me when I was in that? And it was a huge challenge for me, because when I think of a Jesus follower, I think of somebody who you're going to encounter that actually cares about you and is thinking about how they are going to help you and how this is going to be win-win. And I don't think Julie experienced that at all in that conversation with me. Now, I'm usually the opposite. I just kind of can't stand it no more, and I'm just sick and tired, and January 6th was all I could take. I was just, when I saw that, I was all I could take. Can't stand it no more. Usually I'm the opposite. Usually I'm retreating. I'm listening to stuff and I'm going, yeah, and walking away from that. I've kind of learned as I've been unpacking this that that's actually as bad as the other one. Both sides are not really being true to who I am or who we are, and even what we believe in the political climate. And so we either run to the fight or we retreat from the fight. And usually when we retreat, we go look for our tribe, don't we? We look for some people who think like us and are and listen to us, and we all go, yeah, those people. Well, I thought it'd be kind of cool to see if we can figure out who's in the room, whether we're all a tribe or maybe this is enemy territory. Grab your phone. This is what we're going to do with Mentimeter. And now I'm going to ask you some harder questions. First of all, let's see if you agree with some of the studies that we looked at. For this, throw up the first question. Which one of these is most divisive? Race, religion, education level, or politics? Good enough. You know, that goes with the research, that actually in the last 30 years, the divisiveness around political parties has gone up 3 times, while these other ones have stayed pretty much the same. I would think that 2020, with George Floyd's death, maybe race has gone up too, and everything we're going to be talking about would even apply to that kind of conversation also. But yeah, that is right in line with the research. Try this question out. This one's interesting. Would you be displeased if your child married someone outside your political party?
Now remember, don't answer how you think a Christian should answer.
That's right.
This is the only chance you're going to get.
I don't even know where that voice is coming from. That's right. This is so anonymous that you really need to answer exactly what you think, okay, through this stuff. Well, did you know that in 1960, 5% of people would be displeased if their child married somebody from a different political party? In 2010, 40% would be displeased if their child married somebody from another political party. And in 2020, 50%. I don't know what's going on here in this room. You know, my mom was a liberal Democrat, and right before the day she died, she was still calling her congressmen and senators on things that were of concern to her. And my dad was a conservative Republican, even ran for the Republican legislature. And we got quite a history as a Republican family. As far as I know, they had a great marriage. They wouldn't be married, I don't think, especially with 71%. Wow. Try this one out. Would you say that the people of the other party are a serious threat? Not the party you're in, the people of the other party. Are they a serious threat? That's so cool how those graphics work. We didn't get to do it with real people. Wow, you guys aren't even close. That's kind of cool, actually, because in the research, 85% of people who did it said they are a threat. So if you don't feel like that, you're encountering a lot of people who do. That's interesting, isn't it? Let's do a few more questions to see what you literally think on the political front here. Where on the spectrum do you engage the news cycle? Not at all, once a week, once a day, multiple times, or sources in the day. Okay. Some of us are really, this is pretty evenly dispersed. We're just going to rapid fire here. You're just going to get a snapshot of what we are in the room by watching this right here. I am more likely to watch which news channel? I can't even wait. I can't wait for this. I can't say it. CNN, Fox, NBC, or America One. Okay. You starting to get a picture of the room? Who's in the room? I vote. We're going to get it. It's anonymous, so you never get to do this except if it's anonymous. I voted for mostly Democrats or mostly Republicans. That's the next question. Go for it. Or not at all. You can do it not at all. Okay. Couple more want to jump in. Who'd you vote for president? Isn't that the question you've been wondering? Who'd you vote for president? Biden, Trump, or neither? Wow. Okay. It gets even more. Where do you lean? Are you far left, moderate, right, far right? This is cool. Wow.
It's so cool.
You getting a picture? This is the one that I really wanted to see, this next one. Is this present political climate, are you able to share your political views? One, does the climate encourage me to do that? Or does it prevent me from sharing my political views? Wow. Did you know that 62% of the people in the research said that it prevents them? I guess for most of us in this room, 87% in this room, the climate right now prevents you from sharing your political views. That would tell me that many of us here are just one January 10 away, January 6 away from either coming uncorked or retreating off into oblivion because we can't share what we think. That's really interesting. So here's the question. In the room right now, would you feel comfortable sharing, based on what you saw, how the room is, would you feel comfortable sharing what you think about your political ideas? Is this your tribe? Or is this enemy territory? What's interesting is both sides of that don't feel like you can share your political views. Man. And so the main question that I want to pose is, how are you going to be true to who you are and what you believe about or think about what's going on in this political climate we're around? So we're just like jumping into the deep water here when it comes to JED talks. How do you do that? I want to give you three things, three action items, I think, of how you can do that. Be true to yourself and live out what you think, which is going to be a challenge, especially based on what we just looked at right there. First one is find out what you're afraid of. This is all for me coming out of, I'm just kind of giving you my testimony almost. It's coming out of January 10. What was going on for me? I wanted to look at it. I wanted to understand it. And I started to realize there's a fear there. Actually, when it comes to this politics thing, it seems like fear is the underlying emotion that's going on and is being played to. We all have fears. Matter of fact, in the Bible, 365 times it says, fear not, or do not fear. It's the most prolific command in the Bible. I think it's also because it's the most common and frankly debilitating emotion that we can experience. Most primary one, honestly, especially when it comes to this subject. Now you might be going, I don't know. I think anger is that. I mean, I'm more likely to get angry about all this even if I don't share any of it. Well, anger, you already know this, is a secondary emotion caused by a primary emotion, right? And I would say that anger is caused by fear and shame, and your psychology people can add to this on a separate, but right now, I think when it comes to politics, it's fear. Everything's coming at you. What are they going to take from me? What am I going to lose? How are things going to change? You know, those people, those bad people. Whoa, man. Well, that's all fear language, isn't it? It's all fear. And you know, in politics, fear doesn't look like fear. It looks like the exact opposite. It might look like confidence. It might look like belligerence. It might look like indifference. It might look like withdrawal. Fear might be the loudest voice speaking, even and not sound the most confident one. Very rarely do you ever hear somebody who's vulnerable and sharing what they're really afraid they're going to lose. And get honest with that. Julie and I had a moment later where I guess I'm just afraid. When you're in the fight, when you're flooded with angry chemicals that want to win, you don't have any awareness of that. So the first thing is finding out what your fear is. That's critical, I think. Because fear usually sounds like this. Those godless Democrats are trying to take our religious freedom. And it looks like in this room, Bob, the majority of us are saying that one. Or it's the other side. I had to write this one down, so I got it right. Those heartless, domestic, terrorist Republicans are trying to steal our democracy. You know what happens when your fear is being played to? You're being played by the algorithm. And it's driving you to the extreme. More and more. I had to look at what my fear, it was tough. What was my fear and what was I afraid of in this conversation I'm having? I wanted to unpack this thing. Never waste your pain. Never waste your conflict. What was going on there for me? As I unpacked it, I started to understand, sort of a subtle one, my fear is that I am being duped. Somebody's trying to trick me and play me, that I'm being played. So you know what I do? I mean, I don't know if that's yours, but when I started to unpack it, I don't want to be played. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do so that I'm never duped is I'm hyper into the news cycle. I can tell you all day long what just happened like 30 minutes ago. Play by play. I know more so that when we get into a conversation, I'm smart. I'm smarter than you dumb you-know-whats. You know? And so then what does that do? That plays into my pride. I was a history major, go history majors, and a political science minor. And so I go academic on this then. And I go, oh, that's what's happening with this. I'm just getting smarter, and the whole time I'm feeding the fear, even though it sounds real academic. You can't feed the fear. What you got to do is name the fear. And if you're going to name the fear, you got to go, why am I going to lose? What am I afraid of? You can't decide anything else without first identifying that. And I think in the political realm, I would challenge you. Name the fear, because whatever fear you name, you can conquer. Whatever fear you name, you can confess. And whatever fear you confess, you can move on from. Which means I can go on to some other priorities instead of being driven by that. Yeah. So, I didn't know. That got exposed to me in the midst of that conversation. I think I'm just a teddy bear walking along and, a really nice guy and everybody likes me until you start, if you hang out with me, I really don't drop the F-bomb that much. I don't think. But what is your fear? If you name it, you can confess it, and you can move on from it. And then you can go to number 2. Figure out who you want to be. Who do you want to be? What's your best self? And what would it look like in the situations that you encounter when your January 10 comes along? What does your influence look like from your best self? Project it in your mind when you're really who you want to be. I love that question, actually. My challenge was, and this is what my big identifier was, that, I hadn't really thought about that at all in relation to this subject. I'm pretty dialed in most other areas and on purpose, but I was an accident waiting to happen. And if you look at a lot of our social media posts, it looks like there's a disconnect between who we think we are and the influence that we're spinning out there. Boom, post. And then I see you face to face. Are you really like that person who just hit that and said that? No, not really. You don't have any influence. Yeah. Well, decide who you want to be. Well, that's powerful, isn't it? So that I can engage in whatever's coming my way already predetermined. Now, I think it's all about who you want to be is all about influence. And do I have a graph for a continuum up there? So if I have a continuum from personal priorities over to the public square, and I'm talking the public square being the discussion about politics, I've got to decide who I want to be and how much it's going to cost me to be that. And I think it's legit to make that decision, and it might be different than I decide. And you can see up by the statistics that we have that a lot of us feel a lot of different things. I'll give you an example how it could cost you. So I'm watching the play-by-play of the Capitol being stormed, right? And there's this guy on the floor of the Senate who is, somebody sticks a microphone and says, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "I'm a pastor, and I'm probably going to lose my job, but this is the most important place I could be right now." And I'd be so curious right now whether he's looking for work or he's wondering when he's going to get out of jail where he's going to find some work. Now, I'll grant you, if he decided that this thing he's doing, now this is a little, I'm getting really controversial here. If he decided that I am going to spend all of my influence, it's who I want to be, on that cause, and he predetermined that, I mean, I don't agree with him, but at least he's true to who he wants to be and what he believes. It could be on the other side. Or you could be, I don't know, you may get ready to march. I'm not going to tell you you shouldn't march or you shouldn't do all that. I can tell you for me, because I wanted to think it through. There are some other priorities. And some of those other priorities, well, I'm a pastor for one. And my desire is to help people love God and love people. And so, for me, I'm going to have to choose to not express everything I think, because I think a lot. I feel pretty strongly about some stuff. And when I look at the political climate, I'm like, I get riled up. But what I'm going to have to do to be who I have determined I want to be, and I think God has helped me with that, I'm going to have to be over here on this side of the spectrum, of the continuum, which means I'm not going to get to say in the public square what I want to say or do what I want to do. Now, the cost for me, if I'm counting the cost, is that I can't step away completely from the news cycle and say, I don't care about that. I'm still in it. And now I've got the internal dialogue and debate of how I live with this gap. That's the gap that costs me. I don't think you're true to yourself if you just go over here and say, and just hands off, I don't have anything to do with that. You're just denying the fact that you have a fear and you don't want to face it. Wouldn't it be better? Know your fear. Decide who you're going to be. And then when your January 10 comes up, step into that and being true to yourself. That seems better. And if you do that, you can move on to number 3, which is find common ground. Now, we did a little homework on that, trying to find out where that phrase came from, find common ground. And one of the places we found is that it's like the image of a village that has a common well, where everybody in the village has to meet and they all need water. Now, they all might think different things. They might have all kinds of opinions, but you need water, I need water. This is where we're going to meet. If I hoard all the water, you die. It's more of a real relationship, right? We can need to find common ground. Now, when I say common ground, this is an interesting point. The research is really interesting on this. That I'm not talking about we need to understand the other side. I know that's what you think. That the thing is, I'm supposed to listen to the other side, right? Well, research shows that if you are on the left and you're going to try and understand the people, those other people that are in your tribe who are on the right, and you're going to watch Tucker Carlson, or if you are on the right and you're going to be real altruistic and you're going to try and understand the people on the left, so you're going to watch Rachel Maddow, all you're going to do is confirm more of what you already think. Give it a shot. Watch it for a little while and see if you aren't getting a little bit more riled up and your confirmation bias is increasing. Common ground isn't that. I think common ground, especially as Jesus followers, is something that we can find where we are completely different, but you are created in the image of God. I am created in the image of God. And even if you don't know Jesus yet, both of those are true. And I'm at least going to tap into that. I think we can move in and find common ground only if we know our fear, only if we know who we want to be. And I think there's something beautiful about that. It must be, I would pose to you, that is the expression of our vision of loving God and loving people in the public square. Finding common ground instead of pushing back. That's pretty cool. That must be what Jesus meant when he said, love your enemies. Well, just as simple as that. So on January 10th, Julie and I, were as far apart as we could be. But after moving on these three ideas, these three action points, I can tell you that we still completely disagree with one another. We didn't change anything of what we thought, but we did change who we are. And we wouldn't be able to stand there and talk. Matter of fact, every relationship, if you'll press through, look at yourself, it can grow to something new. That would be cool. That would be cool. Now, our premise to you was that if you would come to JED Talks, you would be investing in yourself. And so, I think if you identify your fear, decide who you want to be, look for common ground, you're going to have a good return on this investment and a good return on your life. And it could even be that Jesus wanted us to be in the public square as the place we express loving God and loving people. Thanks.